Most parents have already heard the warnings about screens before bed. They know about sugar. They have read about sleep schedules and blackout curtains and the right room temperature. They have tried the routines. They have downloaded the apps. And many of them are doing all of that reasonably well. And yet their child still struggles to fall asleep alone, still calls out after lights off, still needs one more thing, one more glass of water, one more hug, one more check that the door is open exactly the right amount. And the parent, exhausted, loving, doing their absolute best, provides it every single night. Because that is what good parents do. They respond, they show up, they make sure their child feels safe. And this is true, and this is good, and this is also, in a very specific way that almost no one talks about, quietly undermining something important in your child's developing brain. Not because responding is wrong, not because showing up is wrong, but because of when the response arrives and what the child's nervous system learns from the timing of it. Here is what almost no one explains about resilience. Resilience is not a personality trait. It is not something children are born with or without. It is a neurological capacity that develops through a very specific kind of experience, the experience of encountering discomfort, real discomfort, not manufactured, and moving through it to the other side. Not with rescue, not with immediate relief, but with the internal experience of, that was hard, and I survived it, and I am okay. Every time a child has that experience, something is built, a neural pathway that says, difficulty is survivable, discomfort is temporary, I have the resources to move through hard things. And every time that experience is interrupted, every time the discomfort is resolved from the outside before the child has moved through it from the inside, that pathway does not get built. The child is comfortable and a little less resilient than they could have been. Hi, welcome to Guided Growth. In this video, we'll talk about the specific bedtime pattern that almost every loving parent falls into, why it quietly undermines your child's capacity for resilience, and what to do instead, in a way that keeps your child feeling safe and loved while also building the neural architecture they need to handle hard things. First, let us understand what is actually happening in your child's brain at bedtime. Bedtime is neurologically significant in a way that most parents do not realize. It is not simply the end of the day. For a child's developing brain, bedtime represents a daily encounter with one of the most fundamental anxieties that humans experience: separation, aloneness, the transition from the stimulated, connected world of the day into the quiet, dark, alone world of the night. This transition is genuinely hard, not because your child is being difficult, not because they are manipulating you, because the brain has a threat detection system, the amygdala, that is particularly sensitive during this transition. The stimulation of the day drops away, the body becomes still, the mind becomes quiet, and in that quiet, the amygdala notices, I am alone. It is dark. I cannot see what is around me, and it sends a signal that functions neurologically very similarly to a mild threat response. This is normal. This is not pathology. This is the ancient mammalian brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, scanning for safety when the protective stimulation of the day disappears. What your child is asking for when they call out after lights off, when they need one more thing, when they cannot settle, is not manipulation and it is not weakness. It is the amygdala seeking a signal that says, the environment is safe, the threat has been assessed, you can let go. And you, good, loving, responsive parent that you are, have been providing that signal every night, reliably, which means your child's amygdala has learned something very specific. It has learned that the signal it needs comes from outside, that safety at bedtime is not something that exists inside them, it's something that arrives when the parent responds. And this is the pattern. Not that you respond, but that the response always arrives before the child has had even 30 seconds of practicing the move through discomfort on their own. Imagine learning to swim. Every time you feel the discomfort of being in the water without full support, someone immediately puts their hands under you. You are never in danger, you are always safe, and you never learn to swim. Not because you are incapable of swimming, but because the moment that builds the capacity, the moment of being slightly unsupported and moving through that, is always interrupted before it can do its building work. That's what's happening at bedtime in millions of loving homes every single night. Number 2, co-regulation without the bridge to self-regulation. There's a concept in developmental neuroscience called co-regulation. It describes exactly what you are doing when you go to your child at bedtime. Your calm nervous system helps calm your child's activated one. Your calm presence is a genuine neurological resource for your child. This is real, and it is important, and it is not the problem. The problem is when co-regulation is never followed by the bridge to self-regulation, when the sequence is always child activated, parent arrives, child calms, and never reaches the next stage. Child activated, child has a brief experience of beginning to move through it, parent confirms safety, child completes the regulation independently. A child who only ever experiences co-regulation without this bridge is like a student who always has a calculator. They can produce the right answers, but they never build the internal mathematical capacity that the struggle of working it out without the calculator would produce. Remove the calculator and they're lost, not because they are incapable, but because the capacity was never built. Your child's nervous system is capable of beginning to self-regulate at bedtime. Not perfectly, not immediately, but the capacity is there, waiting to be developed, and it develops only through the experience of being slightly in the discomfort, slightly without the external resource, and discovering internal resources exist. So please, the shift I want you to start making is this. When your child calls out after lights off for the first time, wait. Not forever, not until they're distressed, just 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute, and listen to what happens. What often happens, not always, but often, is that the calling softens. The nervous system, having not received the immediate external signal, begins to generate something internally. The amygdala, having not had its signal provided from outside, begins to assess the situation itself. And frequently, more frequently than parents expect, the child begins to settle. Not because they are left alone to suffer, but because they are discovering something their nervous system never knew it could do. I can produce this signal myself. Number 3, the good night that never ends. There is a second pattern that is quieter than the obvious calling out cycle, but equally significant in its effect on resilience. It is the bedtime routine that expands indefinitely. You know this pattern. The routine that started as 20 minutes has become 45. The one book has become 3. The one hug has become a ritual of specific duration and specific words and specific physical arrangements that must be reproduced exactly or the child cannot settle. The lights must be at a specific angle. The door must be open a specific amount. The parent must check once, then twice, then a third time, and the third check must include a specific phrase. Each of these expansions happened because it worked. In the short term, each addition to the routine reduced the child's anxiety in that moment, and so the routine grew, one small addition at a time, until it is now a structure so elaborate and so externally dependent that the slightest deviation sends the child's nervous system into genuine distress. This is not the child being difficult. This is the natural result of a nervous system that has learned that safety at bedtime is something constructed from the outside, something that requires specific external conditions to be met before the internal signal of safety can be generated. The problem with this structure is not that routines are bad. Routines are genuinely helpful. Predictability does support nervous system regulation. The problem is when the routine becomes a substitute for internal capacity rather than a scaffold toward it, when the child cannot access any internal sense of safety without every external element in place. Because life will deviate from the routine. The parent will sometimes be unavailable at the specific time. The specific book will sometimes be left at school. The family will travel and the door angle will be different, and the sounds will be different, and the child, whose nervous system learned that safety is constructed entirely from external conditions, will be genuinely unable to access safety in any environment that differs from the one carefully constructed at home. What you want to build is a child whose routine is a comfortable support rather than a non-negotiable requirement, a child who has a preferred way of going to sleep and can also deviate from it without the nervous system going into threat response. That capacity comes only from practice, from the small, gentle, supported experiences of slight deviation from the ritual and discovering that safety remains. Number 5. The return visit that trains the call. This is perhaps the most important and least discussed element of the bedtime pattern. When a child calls out and a parent returns, the parent's intention is to provide comfort and return quickly to allow the child to sleep. But what the child's nervous system is learning from the return visit is not simply comfort, it is a contingency. The child's brain, which is an extraordinarily efficient learning machine, is recording calling out produces a return visit. The return visit produces the safety signal I need. Therefore, calling out is the mechanism for producing the safety signal. This is not manipulation. This is learning. The child is not being calculating. They are being neurologically efficient. The brain found the pathway to the resource it needs, and it is using it. Every return visit confirms and strengthens that pathway. The result, over weeks and months, is a child who cannot begin the process of generating an internal safety signal because the external pathway is so well established and so reliably effective that the internal pathway never gets used. Why would the nervous system develop a difficult internal resource when an easy external one is always available? The way to interrupt this pattern without distressing your child is to change what the return visit provides. Instead of returning to provide the safety signal, the reassurance, the extended presence, the additional ritual, return briefly to confirm the environment and then immediately provide confidence rather than comfort. I checked. Everything is fine. Your body knows what to do. And leave before the nervous system has transferred the regulation task fully to your presence. You are not removing support. You are changing what the support consists of. From, I will regulate this for you, to, I am confirming that you can regulate this yourself. What this looks like when you start to change it. The first nights of changing this pattern will be harder. This is expected, and it is not a sign that you are doing it wrong. It is a sign that the nervous system is encountering something new, the experience of the usual external resource being slightly delayed or slightly modified, and is responding with increased signaling, more calling out, more negotiation, the system escalating because the reliable pathway is not producing the usual result. Stay steady through this. The escalation is not evidence that your child cannot do this. It is evidence that the nervous system is working exactly as it should, testing the reliability of the old pathway before accepting that it needs to develop something new. Within 3 to 5 nights of consistent, warm, confidence-based responses, brief returns, calm confirmations, early departures, most children begin to show a shift. The calling softens. The duration before settling shortens. The nervous system is discovering, slowly, that it has resources it did not know it had. And what is being built in those nights is not just better sleep. It is a brain that has practiced moving through discomfort to the other side. A brain that has internal evidence, not words, not reassurance, but actual neurological experience that difficulty is survivable, that the dark settles, that the quiet is okay, that I can do this. That is what resilience is made of, not the absence of hard things, the experience of moving through them. And bedtime, every single night, is one of the most available and most underutilized opportunities to give your child exactly that experience. You do not have to stop responding. You have to change what the response consists of, from rescue to confidence, from solving the discomfort to witnessing the child move through it, from being the resource to confirming that the resource already exists inside them. That shift, made consistently, with warmth, over weeks, builds something in your child's brain that no amount of perfect routines, no blackout curtains, no sleep schedules can build. A nervous system that knows from the inside that it can handle hard things. That is the foundation of every other kind of resilience they will ever need.